Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review for The Promised Neverland or Yakusoku no Neverland Episode 5. So if you've been following along with videos on the channel, you know this is late like basically everything else because I was sick earlier this week. But either way, I'm excited to talk about this. I thought the first episode of the series was done really well, but this might be the most well-adapted episode of the series so far. Maybe the best episode of the anime so far. And that's another thing. I will not bring up anything spoilery from the manga, but I'm just saying I've read it so you can be warned, but don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything. Yeah, I just feel it's important to note that I try to review as if I haven't read it at all, but I think it's important to note that and note that it colors my my opinions on some of these things, I guess. But either way, starting from the beginning, Ray failed the test. What I was thinking happened was, I was like, at the end of the last episode, I was like, so we never saw Norman tell Don or Gilda anything. So the only person we saw him say anything to is Ray, so it's obvious that he would think that Ray is the traitor. We learned that he did actually lie to Don and Gilda and tell them there were ropes stashed in 2 other places to test them, but Ray also had a 3rd test, and he's the one that failed it. So he admits that he's been the sheepdog for a long time. It's been a while that he has been working with Isabella. But Norman doesn't want to betray him, but rather flip him over to their side. And he even admits that, you know, ordinarily he would have been like, Ray's the traitor, we can't work with him. But it's Emma's whole outlook on things that really sort of made him change his mind on that and think we need the traitor to work with us. And Norman immediately suspected Ray as his first thought, which is why he was one of the first ones he tested, because he felt like the worst case scenario would be if Ray is the traitor, but it would also be the best case scenario for the other side. So he kind of figured like they would realize that's the best case scenario for them, so it's probably Ray. It comes out that Ray's been manipulating them. Of course, he's the one that left little Bernie out and the one that told them, hey, you can still make it in time. And I love that in past episodes, they've done a really good job with that. So if you're an anime-only watcher, you probably wouldn't have noticed. But this was something I like, having watched the manga, and I didn't know who the traitor was, of course, when it was revealed in the manga. But then going back and watching it in the anime and noticing all these little things with Ray kind of manipulating everybody, and it was actually really cool to see. We learned that he's been trying to escape for a while. That's why he's been doing all this, why he's been working with Isabella, all to sort of gather information for when he finally does escape. And one of the things he was doing is working with Isabella. He gets things in return for his good work. So he was testing what he could or couldn't get from the outside world. And as long as it isn't something dangerous, he could get a lot of things, but they weren't always the newest or most modern version of those things. So that kind of tells us that there's maybe a time delay for some reason or another. And also he says he's been protecting Norman and Emma, and that's been his goal the whole time, to protect Norman and Emma. So he still doesn't want to take any of the other kids with them, and he even wants Norman, in exchange for working with them, to lie to Emma and be like, yeah, totally, we'll take everyone with us. But they're not actually going to do that, maybe Don and Gilda at the most, because in his opinion, if they try to take everybody, then they might as well just get shipped out, because if they try to take everybody, the burden's going to cause them all to die anyway, and if they're all going to die anyway, then why not just get shipped out? So that's kind of Ray's outlook on it, as harsh as that is. And I love that after they both leave each other, we have this good scene that conveys a lot of emotion without needing any words, with Ray sort of realizing, oh man, I've lost so much leverage, and him sort of getting angry or pissed off after they split, and Norman realizing how much he can make this work for himself, and like he's really, really worried and stressed, and then you can see just the look of relief over his face and him starting to get happy again. And we don't know exactly what either of them were thinking, but I love how they were able to portray that emotion without really needing any words. I like that a lot. And then we have the meeting between Isabella and Ray, where we learn that it's been 6 years since he started working with her. So he was like six years old he would have had to have been. Or I guess they're 11, about to turn 12, right? The oldest 3. So I guess he would have only been like 5 when he started working with her. Now here's the one place where I think this is the best adapted, or the most well-adapted episode so far in the series, because they've been leaving out things here and there that I feel like would have made the story a lot better, that are just left out from the anime, that I think were maybe a bit of a mistake to leave out from the anime, because they helped develop some of the side characters a bit more. But this episode, they really didn't leave much of anything out, and the one thing they did leave out, I'll bring up here just so like you know, where you have that information, because it's really nothing. They didn't need to throw it in. Is before they tell Emma, there's a scene in the manga where they're all sitting around doing those tests like they do every day, and Norman's thinking to himself, how am I going to break this? How am I going to tell Emma about Ray? And then immediately after, we have the scene that we see where Ray basically just tells Emma, oh yeah, it's me. And that was done really, really well too. And also during that scene where they're taking the tests, Isabella mentions that Don, Gilda, and Phil had really high scores. But yeah, I loved all this. I love Emma as a character. When she isn't a complete idiot, she's putting things together, and she's also making her own plays, even if they're a little bit less focused on or more understated than what Norman and Ray are doing, where she basically says, I'm sure you've had to sacrifice people, don't you dare do that again. So all of that was really, really good. Gilda and Emma have discovered that there has to be a secret room, and where it must be and what size it must be. And also there's this missing time where Isabella disappears every day, and Ray confirms that, yeah, she has to go call in and report back to the headquarters. Don wants to break into the secret room, and then we get this cliffhanger. So yeah, no clue what's going to be happening with all of that. I don't think this cliffhanger was even in the manga. I hate being one of those people to keep bringing up the manga. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I thought this was really good. It was really well adapted. Emma's character I particularly like a lot, and I love that first scene where it's just Ray and Norman talking, and it's paced a bit slowly, but we're just focusing heavily on the dialogue and the two of them going back and forth. That's really, really good, and it felt the closest to the manga's style and pacing. And I'm bringing that up again as there are things that have made the manga really, really, really good, and it feels like in some ways the anime hasn't really lived up to it. But this was a good episode in that it totally lived up to it. It felt closer to that style of storytelling. So I liked that a lot, and they didn't leave out much that had me kind of like, oh, why'd they leave that out? So I thought that was really good. Also, Emma and Gilda, love their characters, so good. But yeah, I'd give it 9 sheepdogs out of 10. I really did enjoy the episode a lot. It's between this and episode 1. I may have enjoyed this even more than episode 1 because that Ray and Norman scene was just really, really good. But yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like if you did, like the video, and comment down there to tell me what you thought of this episode and what you thought of my thoughts on it. Subscribe for more. The Promised Neverland, both anime and manga, much more on the channel. Still trying to catch up to the manga. I'm on chapter 70-some, I think. So yeah, there's all that. Sub for any of that. I try to, of course, for manga videos, I leave spoilers out of the thumbnails and titles as best I can. So yeah, sub for any of that. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel or talk to you there. And if you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us on Discord, just ask and I can give you a link. That's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.